imagine some sort of blockchain professional rating system for individuals. You try to learn from those mistakes, you try to be better. But I think we're going to have a world where it's possible for those mistakes to just sort of follow you forever.
How does a person answer why something happens?
When you look at the findings in different fields,
scant is the part of life in which we live.
To attain the highest values.
One of the things I look for in my training agency, Curious Lion, is like agility, learning agility or rate of learning, right? Like that to me is so important. If someone can show that they can quickly learn the thing, like you say, most of these skills can then be taught. That and the examples you shared it's a lot of it's like intuition, right? So like,
yeah,
I think it's interesting, like an interesting challenge is how do you codify that so that if you're going back to like the blockchain idea of like, you know, having this like digital stamp of like what you can do, like how do you codify some of these type of skills and behaviors, you know, for people so that you can compare them even?
I mean, the only way I can think of to do it would be incredibly dystopian and something that I don't think anybody wants. Which is, yeah, I mean, some sort of blockchain professional rating system for individuals, right? So imagine Yelp or Upwork, but for individual people where it just follows them anywhere they go.
Yeah.
And it's immutable and can never go away.
Yeah, that is fascinating. Like, yeah, because it's also subjective as well, right?
Yeah, and the issue is it doesn't require the permission of the person to make it, and everything's anonymous and decentralized, so it's not like you could sue anyone for the existence of it. But you know, there are times where I wish I had that before working with certain companies, right? It's like, you know, you might have had this experience too. And, you know, it's tough because like, I know I've had bad interactions with people that were my fault, right? Like I've definitely screwed up a number of times. Like I've been like short-sighted or like done something stupid or been emotional and said something I shouldn't have, right? Like we all make mistakes. Yeah. And, you know, you hope, you know, and like you try to learn from those mistakes, you try to be better. But I think we're going to have a world where it's possible for those mistakes to just sort of follow you forever. And it's going to be like in this unerasable blockchain record of every time you said something remotely unwoke on Twitter. And if somebody cares about that, that's going to be a disqualifier. I'm very worried that world is coming. And, you know, on the one hand, I would love it because there were like a few clients who we took on at Growth Machine who ended up being just absolutely the worst people to work with. Like, you know, there was one in particular and yeah, it was the worst company I've ever worked with ever. And we, you know, that project ended very quickly in retrospect, thankfully. And then when I talked about it with other people later, they were like, oh yeah, those guys are fucking awful. Right? Like everybody knew. And if I had thought to ask around and found the right people to ask, I could have avoided it. And if they had some sort of like, you know, decentralized rating system, that would have been very helpful to me. But at the same time, it's like, you know, you see this on like Amazon and stuff too. It's like you get good reviews and you get terrible reviews. You don't get like a lot of stuff in the middle. And, you know, how do you control for that?
So one thing that occurred to me now, I haven't really thought too deeply about this, but that there is zero marginal cost to the sort of the knowledge piece of it, right? Of the education, like what we're doing it on deck. So getting, you know, I'm going to be doing a bunch of sessions myself. We're bringing in a bunch of guest speakers. You'll be one of them. Once you've done that, most of our cost comes in like the support that's given to fellows to get them to actually implement that. And it's in the implementation, right? Which is kind of goes back to your original point we talked about at the beginning, like share your best ideas. Those are free, but it's like people will always pay you for that extra 5%. That's where the value is, right? And so it might be an interesting thing to explore of like, now that is run, there is no additional marginal cost in taking that and packaging that for an audience that then self-directs and self-implements at like, you know, on the ground in their country and whatever. That's actually a really interesting idea.
Yeah, it's like, how do you, but it's interesting too, because even that presumes that people in those communities will see it as an advantage, right? I think there will be, right? And like that will be some of the community, but there's also like, we even need to go more foundational. Like, how do you introduce like digital self-education as a tool for creating a better life for your children, right? Like that's one of the highest leverage things available to people right now, but most people don't know how to do it, and most people don't have the time or the energy to do it or figure it out, right?
Yeah.
And how do you make it obvious that that is an opportunity available, and also make it easier to harness and take advantage of? Like, I don't know. I'm just sort of rambling about this right now because it's something I've been thinking about, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, and spending, I mean, it's like, and spending a lot more time in like more rural areas of Texas and like talking to people there, and, you know, hearing about how basically their whole like economies got destroyed by Walmart. And it's just been like this really sort of sad decline over the last 30 years for anybody who's been cut out of the tech economy, right? It's like, on the one hand, there is the ability to go online and figure this stuff out, but the like foundational layer below that of even like how to do that is not there. And it's definitely not something that's being taught in schools, right? And so I think there's almost this opportunity, like if I were thinking about reimagining school, it would be, you know, like an hour maybe of teaching how to learn and how to like find information and self-educate, and then 6 hours of like discovery. Just like, okay, go. Like just go apply it, right?
Discovery and play.
If you can provide people with that one ability to desire knowledge and know how to seek it out and to see the benefits of pursuing it in their daily life, like that's basically all you need, because everything else can come from that.